announce that after game number 1. We will come back to the booth. Patrick will have your 6-month premium giveaway question. And we'll announce the winner at the conclusion of our semifinal round. Blue-White Control putting itself on the radar here in Minneapolis. Might be a deck that players are going to be playing moving forward. If you did get the opportunity to look at our player profiles, Bylander saying, you know, the question was asked, why did you play this deck? He said, best deck in the format. Maybe he's correct.
Well, certainly people are not expecting it. People are not used at this point in Standard to playing against decks with a lot of counter spells, and they just load up on 4, 5, 6 mana threats. You know, Abzan mirrors are full of this, where you're just trying to outpower each other. Those cards line up very poorly against someone who's just trying to draw cards and cast dissolves and disdainful strokes.
Yeah. We'll see what kind of opening hands these gentlemen can put together. Again, on the other side of the bracket, Andrew Johnson, #1 overall seed with Jeskai, against Nick Paulson, #5 overall seed, playing Abzan mid-range. Very Ari Lax-esque over there. So we will watch these players do battle. Though he's a little bit more aggressive, actually, is Paulson. He does have some Fleeceman lines, a couple copies of Rakshasha Death Dealer, so kind of somewhere in between.
And those cards could play a critical role if he happens to square off against Jeremy in the finals.
Yeah.
Because I think Ari Lax's build does not match up very well with Jeremy, I would suspect. Jason's Ingenuity, Dig Through Time, and counter spells, not good for Ari's list.
Yeah. But I will say, Bylander's deck probably has some real difficulty with the old Fleeceman line.
Yeah, you have Prognosis Sphinx to hold down the fort.
Ah, that no, Smith. Okay.
Got some outs. But it is not, you know, I think it's one of those matches where it being a 3/3 for 2 is more important than the threat of it going monstrous.
Sure. Bylander going to take a look at the opener. Don't think I see a lot of lands over there.
I think I see 0 of them.
Yeah, we're going to send that back. Phil will take a look at his hand. He's got at least 1 land. Caryatid, a mountain, and Elvish Mystic. Looks okay.
Some mana acceleration, some lands, and some things to do. The perfect hand.
That's what I love about those green-red decks. Love it, love it, love it.
Derek Thill, we've had on camera a few times so far. I believe this is Jeremy's 3rd appearance.
Yep. I was surprised when I found out the Blue-White Control is on camera. You mean blue-black, right? It's probably a typo.
Well, his deck lines up a lot better against Ash Cloud Phoenix than the blue-black builds.
That's for sure. Jeez.
Banishing Light and Firing Light do a lot of work there. And Ash Cloud Phoenix has been becoming more and more popular, I feel like, as people are trying to gun for Abzan.
Saw a lot of it last weekend in Worcester.
A lot of it.
Seeing a healthy amount of it here this weekend in Minneapolis. Powerful card.
Yep.
See what 6 Bylander can find here. Every time he's looked at an opening hand, they've all just been okay. The last one was actively bad, but this one's not looking great. Tranquil Cove. All right, there are 2 lands. This is a divination too. Probably has to keep this one, and he will. Got to start it up at 21 here for our semifinals.
Every opening hand I see Jeremy drop so far, I've said this hand needs some help.
Yep.
But I think that's just the nature of his deck, you know?
Still gonna draw a card. Elvish Mystic is what he's found. Already had one of those though. He'll play this one. Pass the turn back over to Bylander. Take a draw here, Disdainful Stroke. Another Tranquil Cove's gonna put him up to 22. And as you mentioned, his hand does need some help.
Yes.
Temple gonna come in. Take a look at the top card. Looks like a Genesis Hydra. This is a Sylvan Caryatid. That's a passing of the turn. Bylander does not get the help he is looking for.
Nope.
We'll just pass the turn back with the Disdainful Stroke as defense.
The Disdainful Stroke protects him very well against this opening.
It's very good defense. You see a Stormbreath Dragon and an Arbor Colossus there for Phil. It's going to go with the big Colossus. Absolutely not. That's going to get countered. Bylander will untap, take a draw. Is it land 3? No, it's Dig Through Time, number 2.
But he has his 2nd main deck Disdainful Stroke in hand.
Yes.
So, again, protection against this acceleration. And now, if I'm Derek, I consider doing something like, well, I guess there's only 1 left in the list, so this is a fine risk to take, but Jeremy with the stroke ready.
There are cards like Nullify, though, too.
Sure. He could have played Courser and an Elvish Mystic that turn,
Yeah.
for example.
Flood of Strand comes rolling off the top here for Bylander. Not sure if he has the appropriate defenses at this point. Might just be time to put the shields down and cast himself a Divination. We'll see. Looks like he might go that route. Going to go down to 21.
Cards he has in hand don't offer him much protection here, so time to start drawing. Yeah, 2 Nullify, 2 Disdainful Stroke, and 4 Dissolve, the counterspell-based game 1.
So I imagine we'll see 2 cards coming Bylander's way. Though, you know, he does have removal spells in his hand, so no guarantee. But it will be a Divination. 2 cards coming. 1 is Temple. 2 is End Hostilities. That's something to work towards.
Exactly, and that's why I like casting the Divination there. At this stage of the game, I think Jeremy needs to start powering himself towards things of substance.
Courser. Top card. Forest. Value. Gain of life up to 21. Top card now. Genesis Hydra.
More value.
Indeed. We're going to have big Hydras coming now because there is an Elvish Mystic. This is another Elvish Mystic, I think.
Just cast them all, who cares?
Yeah.
No, not a lot of value in leaving those as leftovers.
Get an attack for 1. Work your way towards large Genesis Hydras as Bylander will untap. Draw a card. It's an island. You see him bring the Temple forward. So we'll see what land he wants to go with here. He's got a lot of options in his hand, but I think the big plan here is to work towards End Hostilities and try to get your opponent to commit as much as possible so you can get as much as possible with the Master Removal Spec.
And hopefully Derek does not add a Planeswalker.
Yes. That's the scariest card. Some sort of Planeswalker that lives through End Hostilities.
2 Sarkans, 3 Xenagos in the list.
Yikes. And it's going to be a big Genesis Hydra, mind you.
Jeremy really pondering this one.
Don't have a great look at what he's looking at. But he's giving it a lot of thought. As you can see the 2 digs, Banishing Light over there. He's going to put that card to the bottom. Just pass the turn back. Hydra will be added to the grip. Top card, Lucranos. More Hydra action. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's for 6. Let's take a look at the top 6 cards, shall we?
Well, we know he, at the minimum, gets a Pelucranos.
Yep. So, of course, Genesis Hydra's trigger resolves first. Temple, Wooded Foothills, Lightning Strike. Xenagos is the best one.
Yep, that is great for Derek.
Yep.
Because now Jeremy has to end hostilities. And he at least has the Xenagos as a leftover.
Yeah. Though, one thing to note, you see Jeremy Bylander's life total here. Quite high.
He's got a lot to play with.
Yeah.
I think that if Derek does not find a Planeswalker off of that Genesis Hydra, he's just in a lot of trouble.
I think so, too.
As things stand, he's still fighting.
A little shuffle action here. Satyr token going to come in. There's an attack for 4. Well, the top card there for Thill in just a moment for the Courser. There's a Stormbreath Dragon. Yikes. You can see Thill's hand. He does not have the 5th land, actually, so everything gets swept away here. Crater's Claws and another Genesis Hydra with the cards left over. Bylander will draw. Temple and Hostilities. Going to clear it all up. Except for the mighty Xenagos. Top card will get turned down. Stormbreath Dragon will be the draw. That'll be added to the Hydra and the Crater's Claws. Satyr token's going to come across. Bylander's going to go down to 14. But he's doing okay.
Do you have any interest in just casting Genesis Hydra for 2 there?
Actual 0.
You have 0?
Yeah.
Okay. I just feel like Derek's mana might be tied up for a long time if he draws lands.
This is fair. This is fair. Banishing Light going to take that down.
Minutes remaining to sign up for this morning's Premier IQ. The Modern Premier IQ does begin at 10 o'clock.
It's a Temple. Take a look.
Once again, modern players.
Keep it on top.
I mean, don't get me wrong, Genesis Hydra for 2 kind of sucks, but I'm just worried about what his mana looks like otherwise.
There's Stormbreath Dragon. It's an attack for 6. Last Breath's going to take down the token. Thill will gain some life. Bylander will lose some.
And this is one of the holes in Jeremy's armor here is a Resolve Stormbreath Dragon requires a little bit of work to get through.
Yeah. Dissolve the draw.
Right on time.
Well, dig through time's not so bad.
No.
Gonna cast that. That one's always on time. Take a look at the top 7 here. And hostilities, are you there? Looks like a lot of blue cards to me. Elspeth among the bunch.
Elspeth is an answer of sorts, although it's definitely on the slow side.
Yep. The good thing here for Jeremy is he doesn't have to worry about monstrosity on the dragon. Only 5 lands in play. There's a land. This is a Prognostic Sphinx. That's a roadblock.
Okay.
That'll do just fine.
Prognostic Sphinx plus Elspeth is a combo.
Hey, you're right. You know what that is?
Good deck build.
Yes, sir. Temple, take a look at a mountain. We're keeping that mountain for the Genesis Hydra.
And also to ensure Monstrous on the Stormbreath Dragon next turn.
Sure.
Which may not be in play.
But he doesn't know that.
He also has a Crater's Claws in hand, so it's not that huge of a cost to keep mana on top of your deck.
Phil may be considering casting a spell here.
I mean, he can Hydra for 3, which is a hedge of sorts against Elspeth, if that's what he's worried about. But because Jeremy can just leave Prognostic Sphinx back on defense in any event, I don't think it makes a lot of sense to cast it here.
Bylander's draw for the turn was an Elspeth. The Sun's Champion has arrived. Looks like it may have some interest in blowing up Stormbreath Dragon, as it usually does. So away that goes. In comes the attack for 3. Trigger the Sphinx. Take a look at the top 3. And hostilities, along with the Plains and an Evolving Wilds.
So this is the upshot of Derek keeping the land too, is now he gets the Genesis Hydra 4 more, and his Critter's Claws is now going to be +2 as a result.
Mountain comes off the top very quickly. This will be for 5. 5 is a sweet spot here too.
There's some, I mean, this could be Stormbreath or Sarkin too. There's some big hits in this spot.
Yep. Looks like they're going to get life total situated here. Make sure everything is correct here. If you're Derek, I really hope you don't forget that Genesis Hydra trigger. Things will get a little awkward.
Jeremy going to help him out.
What are Foothills, Rattleclaw Mystic, Ashcloud Phoenix, Nykthos, and a Lightning Strike. Phoenix going to come in.
Not quite as good as getting one of his 5s here, but Ashcloud Phoenix is not a bad consolation prize.
I've seen worse. Though the road is a bit blocked in the combination of Sphinx plus Elspeth.
Though Jeremy, without any copies of Banishing Light or Devouring Light right now, which means even though it's slow, Derek can play the attack, morph, flip it back over, start dealing some damage, maybe be able to kill Elspeth that way even.
Let's see what the draw step yields. Devouring Light.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Now Derek's in a lot of trouble. Ignore me.
3 soldiers. Devouring Light's free now. Oh, baby.
That's a combo right there.
Yes, it is.
I've seen that with Triplicate Spirits and Draft. I have not seen it with Elspeth.
Looks like the Sphinx is happy to attack. Not scared of nothing. Gonna trigger the Scry. Take a look at the top 3. See Last Breath and 2 Islands. Those are gonna go to the bottom pretty quickly.
At this point, Jeremy just wants counter spells.
Yep.
I think he will settle for good card drawing.
3 damage is dealt.
And his exile effects are pretty good in this spot as well.
Phil will draw a copy of Wooded Foothills. That'll come into play. Sacrifice that very quickly. Last card in his hand is a copy of Crater's Claws.
So I think Derek's going to go for it with the consolation of trying to kill Elspeth, and neither is going to work.
Yep. The Claws right now would deal 9. 8 mana in play, so actually be 7 plus 2.
Okay, so probably opens up the turn with attacking with Ashcloud Phoenix. See what happens.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start. So he will grip that fireball. And, as you mentioned, start the turn attacking with both creatures. A little chump block action, I imagine, on the Genesis Hydra. And, oh, look at the value. Oh boy.
Oh.
He wants to take a look at Devouring Light. Well, we can look at it too. Exile target attacking or blocking creature. Phoenix, you're good, but you're not better than that thing. And what's really brutal about this...
Dig through time, mana still left over.
Yeah, that's the part that's really brutal.
It's a nice turn.
Yeah, it's really not a bad turn. That's for sure. Thill is considering his Creator's Clause at this point. The interesting thing for Bylander is, what does he want to dig through time for? But I agree with you, it's just counterspells at this point.
Counterspells, I think Banishing Light and Devouring Light are both fine cards to take, but because the biggest vulnerability he has right now is a Stormbreath Dragon, assuming he wants to continue to attack with Prognostic Sphinx, I think counterspells are probably the best thing to do.
Fireball, nope. Dissolve. Scry, bottoms up.
So this does keep him off of Dig Through Time for 1 turn.
Yep, 1 mana away. Back to Bylander we go. He'll draw a mystery card. It's a copy of Jace's Ingenuity. He is turning the corner very nicely here. So much, in fact, that he's able to even attack with these soldier tokens. Puts Banishing Light on top of the deck. Elspeth Elevator is going to be moving up in just a moment. There are 3 soldiers for our blue-white control player. You see the hand, the dig, the Jace's Ingenuity, and the backup Elspeth in case anything goes wrong.
Feeling pretty firmly locked up here, even if Derek draws very, very well.
Of course, there are crew fix the draw. Take a look at the top card, Wooded Foothills. That'll trigger. Still going to go up to 14. Next card, Xenagos. But those cards are getting overpowered now. Here's an attack for 5.
Xenagos is one of his better cards in the matchup, but the ship has sailed.
It's time for Jace's Ingenuity now. 3 cards coming in for Bylander. 1 is Banishing Light, 2 is Ingenuity, 3 is Prognostic Sphinx.
He has no bad draws from here because the lands are also fine.
They're perfectly fine, yeah. There is a land, Tranquil Cove. Even one's a gain life. Up to 11.
Just a little taste. A sip.
See how Bylander wants to attack on this turn. Just the Sphinx. Banishing Light along with Flooded Strand and Plains. Lands will go to the bottom. Banishing Light will stay on top. 3 damage will come across. It's evened up. It's 11 to 11.
It's close. It's a tie. And Derek's empty-handed, so Jeremy now can just contemplate every single draw Derek can have and what the consequences are.
Doesn't feel like a tie.
He can sit on his card drawing or deploy another Prognostic Sphinx.
Elspeth will move up. Little ways away from the ultimate, but 7 soldier tokens out there. Chump block all day. Xenagos is added to the grip. Top card here. Copy of Creator's Clause. There is the Reveler. This will be a dig through time in response. Bylander going to take a look at the top 7 cards. Maybe find a counterspell there. Again, he knows Banishing Light's on top. So here's the 7th one.
Creator's Clause is by far the most threatening thing.
Scariest card for sure. See a Nullify here. And Hostilities, I believe, as well. May have taken a Banishing Light, though.
Keep in mind, he's +2 because of Genesis Hydra, plus Xenagos can make mana. So that Creator's Clause is not the card that Jeremy wants to see.
Here's some attacks, and I have a feeling here comes some chump blocks. I think he might be checking to see, can I kill you on the counterattack? I don't think that's the case.
No, he is short.
He's short 1.
Because he did not attack last turn because it wasn't setting up for a kill this coming turn.
Bylander going to untap, draw a mystery card, copy of Last Breath. And oftentimes that wouldn't be a great draw in this situation, but Last Breath has a little bit of versatility in the fact that he can actually gain life.
Exactly. The only risk to Jeremy right now is something happening with this Creator's Clause, and the fact that he can Last Breath one of his own soldier tokens means that between that and the Banishing Light that he has in hand to take care of either Xenagos or the Genesis Hydra, he's not really at risk of getting killed, and he is generating lethal, not this turn, but next turn.
Mr. Bylander has put together a nice little deck here, as he will go attacking. Looks like he's going to go after Xenagos. It looks like these soldier tokens are feeling a little frisky too. Time to see exactly how he wants to attack with these. He's got 4 to choose from. He's going to attack with all 4, maybe. All right, just 3. Looks like Xenagos is going to bite the dust. Take a look at the top cards. Dissolve's going to stay on top. Rest are going to go to the bottom.
Once again, seedings are up for the modern event.
Up to 5. 3 more soldiers.
We'll begin the player meeting in just a couple of minutes. Please find your seat if you're at the modern event.
Oh, this is Bylander want to do this turn. Looking at the last breath of Jace's ingenuity. Dissolve on top of his deck, but he's going to pass the turn back with a pretty full hand. Top card now is Sarkin. He knows that's coming next turn. Going to sacrifice this Wooded Foothills. Will Thill.
Or it is not coming next turn.
Accurate. Accurate. I didn't get a land out of the deck. There's a mountain.
A little surprised to see Jeremy not attack with one of the tokens there because it seems basically free. You know, Derek's taking the Creator's Clause as a draw, so you don't have to worry about, you know, what if he draws Pelukrinos and he can fight some tokens? That's not really on the table right now.
Modern players.
I don't know how much it matters ultimately, but if I'm Jeremy, I'm not really looking to play that many more turns.
Top card is Pelukrinos. Here's Creator's Clause. That's going upstairs. Jason's ingenuity in response. Somebody knows the top card of their deck, don't they?
Yeah.
Oh. Somebody knows they have a Dissolve on top of their deck. Counter that. Leave that card on top very quickly. Derek Thill doesn't want to play anymore, and I understand why. Jeremy Bylander is going to win game number 1 here over Derek Thill. Blue-white control up a game over green-red monsters.
And I think
Alrighty
this is the problem that I think the matchup has from Derek's side of the table, though we still have 1 or 2 more games to play here, is that without having access to a counterspell in this list, he is really at the mercy of end hostilities. His planeswalkers are really the only thing that give him some play there, but Jeremy is very liberal with being able to just cast end hostilities, knowing that he doesn't have to play around anything bad happening when it gets cast.
Yeah, it makes it pretty simple
Yep.
on his side of the table. It is trivia time, my friends. 6-month giveaway. Patrick's got your question. The rules are simple. Get your Twitters open. Hashtag SCG Premium. Make sure you're following at SCG Live. It's about accuracy, not speed, as usual, because we'll announce the winner at the conclusion of our semifinal round. And, of course, all contests and giveaways here with SCG Live are the sole discretion of Star City Games. No contests or giveaways are affiliated in any way with Twitch.tv, though we are thankful to be able to broadcast on their fantastic network. Mr. Sullivan, fire away.
We've been talking a little bit about Grand Prix New Jersey. We have a lot of stuff planned for that tournament. We're going to be talking about it throughout the course of this weekend and our upcoming shows as well. You can always go over to Magic GB for more information. Friday night, we're going to have a versus video featuring 2 very popular streamers and video versus video stars from StarCityGames.com. Can you name those 2 people, and for extra credit, include their Twitter handle in your answer?
Extra credit is very important, and they love getting tweeted at early in the morning.
Especially both of them.
Yes,
They
so
both love it.
equally.
So again, those 2 people who will be competing in a versus video, I believe 6 o'clock in the evening,
Yep.
Friday night. If you want to brush up on a little bit of Legacy knowledge, it'll be very helpful. If you're at the site, you can watch, or if you're at home, tune in Twitch TV, check it out.
Hashtag SCG Premium. Make sure you're following at SCG Live. Announce the winner at the conclusion of our semifinal round. Jeremy Bylander up a game. Take a look at the sideboards here. Derek Thill's got 2 Arbor Colossus, 2 Genesis Hydra, a Hornet Queen, 3 copies of Destructive Revelry, a Nissa World Waker, 3 Anger of the Gods, 2 Portent of Betrayal, that threaten effect, and then a Nykthos. Well, this is, I think, the easiest one. How do we feel about Destructive Revelry?
I think 3 is excessive,
Okay.
but I could see 1 or maybe 2 coming in by Banishing Light.
Okay.
Besides that, I think you can go with more. I think more copies of Genesis Hydra are fine for the matchup. I don't think I would go near Arbor Colossus. I don't think Hornet Queen's particularly good. So yeah, the Nissa I like. I like not all 3, but greater than 0 Destructive Revelries, and I like the Genesis Hydras.
Other side here for Bylander. Second time we look at his sideboard this morning. Resolute Archangel, 2 Wingmate Rocks, 4 Nyx Fleece Ram, and 2 Brahmas King of Rescos, along with additional Devouring Light, Disdainful Stroke, and Erase, a Faded Retribution, and 2 copies of Negate. I imagine he'll sideboard pretty similarly as he did last round.
We saw him bring in Negates against the Teamer deck. Not really a ton of spells in the deck, but some of Derek's best spells are Planeswalkers, and we saw him bring in Negates before. I think the Faded Retribution and the Disdainful Stroke, the Devouring Light, those are very easy to bring in. Besides that, I don't know if he's going to want to go that creature heavy. I think his best card in the matchup, as far as a win condition, is Prognostic Sphinx, but it wouldn't surprise me if he brought in the 1 Resolute Archangel.
Andrew Johnson won his match 2-0. He is not messing around. We got Jeskai in the finals again, gonna play the winner of this match.
Just sawing through these Obzon decks thus far.
Yeah, #1 overall seed is not afraid of Siege Rhino at all. He is dusting up these Obzon decks, and he will play against either Blue White Control or Green Red Monsters in the finals. We will find out here momentarily. While we do wait for these players to shuffle up, we will take a look at our 2015 Quarter 1 schedule, Patrick.
It goes from cold to hot.
It does.
So
go
if we
from cold to
survive
hot.
January, we'll be just fine for the year.
Well, we almost didn't make it out alive of this January.
Exactly. That's why it's important to clarify, because that almost didn't happen in 2014.
Open Series will begin in Columbus. We'll follow that up with Philadelphia, Washington, D.C. after that, and then an Open Series in Indianapolis. So as you said, it starts cold.
It's going to be rough. But if we get through the month of January just fine, it starts warming up very quickly.
We'll heat up in Houston. First time the Open Series has ever gone there. Follow that up with Los Angeles. It better be warm there.
Drivable. It'll be fine. It'll be in the 60s at the worst.
Open Series in Baltimore, a little chilly there. And then we will do Grand Prix Miami, where we know it'll be warm there.
It's going to be a lot of fun. That's a standard Grand Prix. Once we get done with New Jersey, we're going to start rolling out a little more information for that. We're very excited.
Follow it up with an Open Series in Dallas and end of Season 1 in Richmond for our first invitational of the year. Looking forward to all of those dates, especially our first time going to Houston.
It's surprising to me because Houston's a huge city. It's one of America's largest, and the Open Series has not gone there yet.
Great city. Can't wait to go. Great basketball team, terrible baseball team, but that's okay. They're trying to be bad.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll be able to catch
A
the
good
sports.
live experience. I enjoyed when I went to that ballpark.
Have you been?
Yeah.
I've not been. I believe it's still called Minute Maid Park. I've not
Exactly.
been.
I didn't go this year, but the year previous.
Okay. Good live experience so much, and the ballpark is nice.
Well, I got to sit on the third base dugout for $60, so.
Okay, yeah, because the on-the-field product is not so great at this point, but
They had one entertaining player.
I think you're thinking of Jose Altuve.
Yeah,
probably.
short guy, middle infielder.
Yes,
He was
yes.
entertaining.
We did meet a gentleman yesterday who had a Nolan Ryan throwback jersey for the Astros.
Yeah, but not the one with the Schoolhouse Rocks colors on them.
Unfortunately. It's an Elvis Mystic to start things off. Well, we think.
Whoa.
Jeremy may not keep. And as usual, every time we take a look at his opening hand,
This needs help.
it needs help. He does have some dissolves here. He's got a Jason Ingenuity. Looks like he has a Flooded Strand, a Temple of Epiphany, and a Plains, and then a Negate is the other card here. So his hand does look like it needs a little bit of help.
Well, I think this hand's pretty solid. He has a lot of permission here, and because he has Negate, he's not worried about a Planeswalker. So the only disaster state is that Derek ramps into Ash Cloud Phoenix, or maybe Pelucranos, before Jeremy can get to dissolve mana.
I'll keep it. There's the Mystic. Here's the Temple. Take a look at the top card.
Also at table 61 is Brent Steers.
Thill will draw. Xenagos is what he's found. You see, he's got at least one Destructive Revelry in his deck. You got to be wary of those Banishing Lights. Take a look at the top card. That's going to the bottom. He's hoping to resolve. Xenagos next turn. He's got the necessary mana and an attack for 1/2. So a good start here. However, as we know, Bylander's got the Negate ready.
That's why I like Jeremy's opening hand here. He gets to go Negate into the threatening Planeswalkers, and then has dissolves ready to go. Always worth giving your hands a thorough consideration, but I would have been stunned if Jeremy sent this one back.
There's an untapped land. That'll help cast that Negate. Thill will draw a card. It's a copy of Temple of Abandon. Here is a Temple. Take a look at the top card. Sylvan Caryatid. That's going to go away. Here's an attack for 2. Interesting.
Well, Derek respects the possibility of Negate or Disdainful Stroke, so why not just attack?
Respect it.
Players, that is time in the round.
Which I respect. I'd rather lose than let my opponent resolve a counter spell.
I
You
like
know what
that.
I mean?
Yeah.
I just attack.
Here's a Flooded Strand. Pass the turn back over to Thill. And it's a World Waker.
Now the problem with this setup here is that this amount of pressure is not going to be enough to kill Jeremy, and Derek can't play at instant speed. So if you want to go down this road, normally what you want to do is be able to play stuff at the end of Jeremy's turn, untap, and start resolving your own stuff. Because of this, I think Derek probably has to cast the Xenagos this turn, just to do something, because his hand's going to get clogged otherwise.
Yeah, I think that he needs to do something. This is not enough pressure against the blue-white deck is the problem. Here's the draw. Tranquil Cove. Yeah, it's funny because Tranquil Cove like undoes like a turn. You know, a game left up to 16. Mountain is the draw.
I just don't understand. I don't know how Derek's ever going to power his way through the counter spells the way that he's playing right now. I like the one turn where he didn't attack, but I think last turn he needed to try to resolve something.
Yeah, the big issue is, as you mentioned, he doesn't play on his opponent's turn. So there's no setup of, okay, I'll play a flash threat.
Exactly.
You need to counter this. Okay, untap, play another threat. All of his stuff that he does is on his main phase. Additionally, unlike the teamer matchup that we saw in the the quarterfinals, there's no I'm waiting to draw a counterspell.
Exactly.
I think that's the big problem.
Yeah, if he had Boon Satyr in his deck or something like that, this would be totally fine, I think.
Another attack for 2. Because now Bylander gets to pick and choose, you know, okay, maybe I'll do something, maybe I won't.
The other issue here is Derek has just drawn an Elvish Mystic, which he chose not to cast. I think this is a really good spot to cast Elvish Mystic because if Jeremy untaps and end hostilities away this board, you're thrilled you have an open path for Xenagos or Nissa.
A lot of counter spells in Bylander's hand. Just going to pass the turn back. Continue to use his life total as a resource, not going to panic. Take a look at the draw. There's a mountain. That just comes directly off the top and into play. Here's an attack for 2. Bylander's down to 10.
The other issue with Derek's line of play right now is that even if Jeremy taps out for Elspeth, the leftovers he has in his hand do not help him very much.
Yep.
So it's not just about can you ever chain together multiple spells, it's also can you beat the cards that represent Jeremy's entire turn.
You're also, by playing this way, as he's going to discard a copy of Devouring Light, you're also just playing into, you know, allowing your opponent to do something with Jace's Ingenuity.
Yeah. Though, the way things are working right now, this is great. I mean, Jeremy's discarding a hand size. He's not willing to commit anything to the board. So if I'm Derek now, I've gone so far down this path, I'm not stopping.
You can't switch now.
No.
Because nothing has actually caused you to switch. Your draw steps haven't caused you to switch or anything. See if Jeremy's going to cast Ingenuity now. Yeah, he had this last turn, and he opted not to cast it because he has so many cards in his hand, he doesn't want to discard that many cards. But he's going to cast Ingenuity now. There's a Plains, there's a Temple, there's a Nullify.
The reason I don't like that from Jeremy is the way that he's playing this game. He needs to keep making land drops because all he's trying to do is get to a spot where he can cast something to manage the board with counterspell backup. Yep. And he can't do that if he's not hitting his land drops.
Radiant Fountain's going to play the role of Time Walk here.
Yep.
That's a giant beating.
It's a very curious game. I liked Derek's initial decision. And now we'll see. Now Jeremy's made the move, and let's see what kind of follow-up Derek can cobble together.
And not only that, but the counter spells that he has in his hand are great. You know, he doesn't have the mana for Dissolve, but he has Nullify and Negate, so everything's covered.
Yeah.
And Sphinx is the ultimate brick wall. And again, Thill is not in the spot, it looks like at this point, to be able to cast 2 spells in 1 turn. So now he has to figure out, okay, what spell do I want to cast?
I think given the nature of his hand, he should try casting a Planeswalker, because the Planeswalker is the thing that's most likely to have Jeremy say, that resolves, I'm going to Banishing Light it. And because of the Destructive Revelries in Derek's hand, I think he needs to play the game in such a way to try to squeeze something out of them.
Because if he doesn't do that, they end up being virtual mulligans.
Yeah.
Here is Xenagos.
Well, Xenagos gives him a path here to play Xenagos and plus it for 2 spells in 1 turn, assuming this resolves.
Sure. Bylander going to sacrifice his Flooded Strand. He's going to go down to 9. Search up an island or a Plains. And there's going to have a counter spell here in just a moment. There's an island.
I think Jeremy's radar is probably on Destructive Revelry right now because the way the game's played out is so weird. What else could really be in Derek's hand? Has to be some amount of reactive cards.
There's Negate. Bye-bye, Xenagos. A follow-up play, of course, here could just be an additional Elvish Mystic. It looks like that's going to join the battlefield.
I mean, he didn't cast it before, I think, out of respect for end hostilities, but now that Jeremy's deployed a Prognosis Sphinx, I think he should feel free to cast the 3rd Elvish Mystic.
Faded Retribution the draw. Break in case of emergency.
That's a lot of flexibility to have here because Derek's trying to set something up over there. And having an instant speed sweeper gives you a lot of insurance.
It's really, really nice. And Prognostic Sphinx is going to play the role of Roadblock. Genesis Hydra the draw. One of the more interesting draws that you can find here.
And probably something where he should just dump it all in.
Yeah, I mean, the situation, of course, with Genesis Hydra is the card that's revealed can't be countered.
Yep.
So it's going to be for 7. And again, not in play just yet. Got to resolve the trigger first. So Xenagos, Caryatid, Mountain, Courser, Nykthos, Crater's Claws, and another Hydra. So it'll be the Planeswalker that comes in. Those cards, of course, will be shuffled in, and then Genesis Hydra will be placed in the stack again. That'll be for 7. See if this does resolve. And this might be time for that Fated Retribution reset button.
Yep. And you can see this is part of the trouble with Prognostic Sphinx is, though it is powerful, it doesn't necessarily lock someone out, and it has no insurance against your own sweepers.
Yep.
So the board can get like this where you play Prognostic Sphinx to block, your opponent has more stuff to do, and then you're forced to use a sweeper and your own Sphinx dies. This is much less likely to be the case with Pearl Lake Ancient, even though it's much slower.
Elevator goes up to 4 here for Xenagos. And the reason it goes up to 4 is because doesn't want Prognostic Sphinx to kill it, but Fated Retribution is going to kill everything. All those creatures, all those Planeswalkers. It's not Jeremy's turn, so he doesn't get to scry too, but I don't think he minds.
No, not at all. And now we get to play Jeremy's hand and draw steps versus Derek's hand and draw steps, with Jeremy with multiple counter spells already ready to go.
Bylander just plays the Plains, passes the turn back. Thill gonna tap 5-mana Stormbreath Dragon? No, that's gonna get nullified. Try again next turn, Bylander says. Take a draw, dissolve, kick it back. Polukranos the draw. What you got? Big guy.
I'm not saying it's impossible for Derek to win from this spot, but Jeremy is a huge favorite.
If Jeremy finds the card Dig Through Time, I don't think he can lose.
I think even Elspeth's good enough from here.
I think so too, yeah.
I don't think it has to be anything as fancy as Dig Through Time.
You saw another nullify there. Take care of Polukranos. Bylander, 2 dissolves. Actually, 3 dissolves in hand. Sark in the draw. Which spell will we test the waters with next?
And you see, these couple turns are the perfect representation of why it's so hard for Derek to play the game he tried to play earlier on.
Yep.
Because he's never in a position to play multiple spells in a turn.
Scry puts the top card to the bottom. Bylander will draw. And hostilities. Pass the turn back. A mountain to draw here for Thill. It's time for Sarkin. It's time for Dissolve. How about a Scry? How about an island in the bottom? Mystery card coming. Negate.
Sure.
I've seen worse. The draw. Rattleclaw Mystic.
Anything that lets him trade draw step to draw step is fine.
Yep.
As he waits for Elspeth or Dig Through Time.
Finally, they're going to take a look at the bin there, see all the things he's taken care of thus far.
Admire his handiwork.
He's done a nice job thus far. See Thill considering his options here. He's going to go with Nissa. That's a good negate target. And I like negating here instead of dissolving. Yep, there that is.
Mana is not a concern for Jeremy at this point, so keep the thing that can answer Stormbreath Dragon.
Rattleclaws then. Take a draw. There's an island.
Is he supposed to consider casting in hostilities here?
I don't hate that. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. And do a little bit of math now.
Maybe he can afford to take one shot and then end hostilities next turn.
Possible, you know, he takes a shot and then Thill plays another creature and then he gets to get a little 2-for-1 action. Though I'm not convinced he needs a 2-for-1.
The issue here is that given the way that Derek's kind of tried to play this game, I think even if Derek draws a creature next turn, he's not casting it. I think he's aware there's probably some sweepers in Jeremy's hand and that he's just going to hit with the Rattleclaw Mystic until Jeremy answers it.
I like this decision to cast on hostilities, given the play pattern earlier in the game.
Exactly. What is my opponent likely to do? And I think the answer is cast nothing until this gets answered.
Stormbreath Dragon? Probably no, sir.
Well, he can cash in the end hostilities again and leave himself with dissolve. Keep in mind he has to worry about Crater's Claws, and hostilities doesn't answer that card.
Yep. All right, he's going to take 4, go to 6.
Yep. It's not pretty, but he has to respect the fireball here.
Untap and draw. Tranquil Cove's going to push him back up to 7.
And Jeremy has missed enough draw steps, and Derek keeps drawing gas that it's, again, I said not impossible, but very unlikely. And Derek is doing okay.
Yeah, hasn't found a Jace's Ingenuity, hasn't found a Dig Through Time or an Elspeth just yet. Thill will draw. Temple of Abandon is a semi-brick. See what the top card is.
That's the thing. Eventually, Derek just has to start drawing lands. He's drawing spells for a bunch of turns in a row here.
Yep. Pass turn back. Bylander gets a turn of reprieve. On tap and draw here. Disdainful Stroke, another counter spell. Pass that turn back. Over to Thill. Thill will draw another Temple. And this is actually kind of what you talked about and what just has to happen eventually, right there. Thill drew a very high density of very powerful cards. They were all taken care of, but he also has a lot of bad cards to draw.
Yeah.
Courser's not great. You know, Elvish Mystic, Sylvan Caryatid, he's got some bad draws there. I saw the Stroke take care of the Crater's Claws. That would have been lethal.
His deck is not all power.
Sarkin in. Moving up. A Light will devour it.
So what do you think when, I guess the play's too risky because maybe Jeremy's just flooded out, but maybe there's some merit to say just playing the Sarkin with the intent of going ultimate because you have the Destructive Revelries in your hand to kill Banishing Lights if Jeremy tries to answer it that way.
It's a consideration. I think you have to have a pretty healthy read on your opponent at that point.
Yes, that is true. I'm saying it's based on what we know about Jeremy's hand, it would be nice to be able to do that.
Yeah, you know, what are the chances that fire this up attack is good to go? It's tough to say, I think.
And even if he does get a Sarkin emblem, he still could lose to Elspeth.
Yes, absolutely.
So probably better to just start attacking, but interesting that play might have been correct given the nature of Jeremy's hand.
So Wooded Foothills come off the top. That's going to get sacrificed. Get a land out of Phil's deck. Bylander kept a card on top of this temple very quickly. It was a copy of Jace's Ingenuity. He's going to cast this in his main phase. I like this play a lot. A lot of players would just draw that, pass the turn back, and want to cast this as an instant. But Bylander can take the opportunity now. He's got so much mana. Draw 3 cards. Might be a castable card in there. Play Radiant Fountain, go up to 9.
Delicious.
Yeah. And you saw one of the cards that was drawn was Dig Through Time. Something he's been waiting to draw for some time now. There's a Courser. A little bit of value there. See if he has any interest in dissolving this. Looks like he's going to Dig Through Time first.
And the reason he didn't Dig Through Time on his main phase is because whatever Derek does on his turn will inform what cards Jeremy wants.
Absolutely. Elspeth, Prognostic Sphinx, Banishing Light. You see an island as the last card. That one's certainly not going to be selected. A lot of nice options there. Elspeth, probably the best of the bunch. And we can't forget, too, as you see Disdainful Stroke also going to be added to the hand, that Bylander knows his opponent's deck list. That's public information. So you can deduce that, okay, well, I wonder what card he's been holding in his hand the entire game.
Exactly.
What are the chances it's Destructive Revelry? Probably pretty high.
Because you know they're not lands because he's been trying to cast Crater's Claws and his deck does that. So he's not going to be holding a bunch of lands back in his hand.
There's 6 mana. It's time for the Sun's Champion, I feel. There that is. Elevator going up to 5. 3 Soldier Tokens coming into play. Bylander very comfortable passing the turn back, knowing his opponent will draw a copy of Pelucranos. Top card now is Destructive Revelry to go along with the 2 in hand. You mentioned during the sideboarding, you felt that 3 was too many.
I think I would have brought in 1.
Yeah.
3 is definitely too many.
Pelucranos is in. Well, might be on the stack right now as Jeremy is going to dig again. So we'll take a look at a whole bunch of cards here. Now the white cards are showing up. You see the Wrath effects there, 2 and Hostilities. Radiant Fountain also dissolved there.
Dissolve Resolute Archangel is a nice pile.
Somebody found themselves a life total back to 20.
Yeah.
We saw this last weekend in Worcester when Rudy Briscoe was playing it in his Jeskai control deck. I was very impressed with it then. I'm about to be impressed by it now.
I think 1 of in your 75 is really nice.
See, Bylander's going to take a look to see, okay, well, how much can you actually do with this Pelucranos? Because we do live in a world at this point where Bylander can just say, okay, just minus Elspeth, kill your Pelucranos. I can beat your Courser very easily, and then my Archangel's fine. So he may have some interest in just not using a counterspell at all.
And we've seen Jeremy be very, you know, oh, I can handle this by doing this other play that maybe takes me much longer to kill him, but means I keep my most valuable resources.
Pelucranos is going to go monstrous. Chump block there.
And this is exactly what I mean. At this point, Jeremy's happy to say, okay, fine, Pelucranos gets in, not going to use a counterspell. I'll add hostilities and keep the counterspell in my hand.
And hostilities, get this stuff off board. Elspeth, tick on up. And it might even be time for that Resolute Archangel, too.
Or he can cast, if he has Prognostic Sphinx in hand, he can cast that with Dissolve back up.
That's true, too.
Which is not shabby.
Gonna do a little mana count. Now he's the one counting mana.
Yeah.
Hiya. Back to 20.
Or you can play Resolute Archangel with Disdainful Stroke mana. This is all good.
It's all a good, clean living.
Yeah.
Also, you know what your opponent's drawing for the turn, which is, you guessed it, a Destructive Revelry.
If I was Derek, I would put that hand face down on the table too.
Yeah.
I don't even want to look at it.
Bylander can untap comfortably, has a Dissolve, draws another copy of Elspeth. Here's an attack for 7. Still going to go down to 12. Elevator up on Elspeth again. And Bylander is 1 turn away from moving on to the finals to play against Andrew Johnson. There is a Forest. Pass the turn back. Bylander will quickly untap with his soldiers and his Archangel. He will draw a card. We may see an ultimate here with Elspeth in just a second. But it has been a very impressive run here for Jeremy Bylander. 3rd time we've seen him on camera, all with W's. And this blue-white control deck may just be the real deal.
At least people have to respect the possibility that people can play decks like this.
Derek Thrill's going to tap a bunch of mana. He's going to extend the hand. Jeremy Bylander going to win this match over Derek Thill 2-0. Blue-white control moving on to the finals. See if it can beat one of the top-tier decks in Standard in Jeskai next.